Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Wednesday, March 3rd. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Moore. The Minnesota game is in 183 days. The game against Michigan in 269 days. One more countdown we can add to that list. The Ohio State football team will kick off its spring practices in 16 days. The Buckeyes announced yesterday that they will start spring ball on Friday, March 19th. The spring game is still planned for Saturday, April 17th. They are still not exactly sure what that will look like in terms of attendance. According to an Ohio State spokesman. We will keep you posted as soon as we do hear more on that, because I know there's been a lot of questions about that. But even before spring ball does start, there is a ton to talk about, thanks in part to Buckeye Scoop's Bill Greene. He dropped a new bank blog this week that was loaded with good nuggets on a bunch of different fronts. We're going to talk about some of them today. And Bill, first of all, let's take one last look at the favorite topic of every Ohio State fan right now. Last year's national championship game against Alabama. You talked to a college defensive coordinator who had some really interesting thoughts on why some of the conventional wisdom about what went wrong for the Buckeyes that night might actually be off base. What did he have to say?
Yeah, I've been in this business so long now that I've developed some pretty good relationships with guys. And, we can be pretty candid with each other. And, when you get the opportunity to talk to someone, a defensive coordinator at a Power 5 school, and just wanted to ask him, what did you see? And this is not a Big Ten coach, but he knew both Ohio State and Alabama fairly well. And what did you see there? And he was like, well, you tell me what you saw first. And that's pretty intimidating. I am not a coach. I don't claim to be one. Followed the game forever and try to learn as much as I can. But, that's intimidating. And I went right to the 4 linebacker look that I thought was ridiculous. And, he didn't, say I was wrong in thinking that, but he thought I was dead wrong in thinking that was why Ohio State lost the game, because his recollection was that the 4 linebacker look rarely gave up the big plays that really killed them in this game. So he felt, I can see where you're thinking the 4 linebacker look was probably not, brilliance, but what killed them was the defensive back play was so subpar. And you hate to call out guys, but yet it's a $1 million business here. It's not junior high. And he felt that the safety play was horrific. And we saw both Proctor and Williamson back there in that single safety look. And he felt both of them were really, really bad that game. And he thought Seven Banks was just as bad as they were. And, Shaun Wade took a lot of criticism, but he actually thought Shaun Wade played pretty well in that game, considering who he was matched up with a lot of the time. And a lot of what Shaun Wade did in that game was very dependent on having over-the-top help. And a lot of times, he pointed out that, Shaun was expecting help, and it was a play where the deep safety obviously should have shaded towards Shaun and Devontae Smith, but Williamson or Proctor would go the other way toward Waddle and Slade Bolden when those guys were not even open. There was just mistakes made in the back. And he felt that Jordan Fuller was really missed. If you're going to play that type of single high look, which is very difficult to play, very few teams play it, you need the requisite athleticism, but you need a really intelligent, smart guy back there that is making great decisions at warp speed, and he felt that was really lacking, and all year long in their defense.
Yeah, Jordan Fuller, when he left Ohio State, I think was very, very underrated by a lot of Ohio State fans, and very, very clearly by the NFL draft community as well. And I think he is getting less and less underrated as time passes and everyone realizes just how big a deal it was to have him back there. So I guess the next logical question is, what's your takeaway then for maybe what that means moving forward? If Proctor and Williamson maybe aren't the answer there to that single high spot, do they, is that Lathan Ransom's spot then to lose potentially this spring? Do they have to shift out of the single high look that Ryan Day likes? I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that's the main focus for me that I'm going to be looking for in spring practice is what are the reports coming out of there? Are they still in the single high look? Do they think they have the right guys to play that look? I know Ryan Day loves it. And as an offensive guru, there's a reason why he loves it, because he knows it's really hard to play against, but you got to have the right personnel. So do you stick with the guys you had last year? You got 3 DBs back of the 4, and are they better simply for the experience of going through it? And is Combs better for that experience of having coached it for 1 year now? Is Matt Barnes better from having, seen it up close and personal? Or are some of these young guys, Legend Cavazos, is he ready to go? Ryan Watts, ready to go? Is Ransom nickelback like he was last year? Is he the answer at deep safety? Or does Proctor get a lot better? Does Marcus Hooker become the guy as he was early in the year? A lot of question marks. Can they play J.K. Johnson? Can they play Hancock? So there are a lot of moving parts here. And, when you got a secondary, the defensive back who, ranked 122 in the country in pass defense, you have something to work on there.
Yeah, the must improve list is fairly long for the defensive backfield. So that's going to be, every time I do a podcast with Tony Gerdeman, I end up saying, I'm really interested to see how this position group shakes out. Defensive backfield, yep, that is right at the top of that list. Something else that I hear a whole lot is every time I have one of our recruiting analysts on, everyone always wants to know what's the latest with JT Tuimoloau. He is, of course, the 5-star defensive end, rated as the top overall prospect for the class of 2021. He is still unsigned. So, Bill, as I am contractually obligated to ask you, what is the latest with JT Tuimoloau?
Well, he's in not nearly as much of a hurry to decide as we are for him to decide. I don't think there's any urgency there, and I don't think there ever has been. I think he wants to visit these schools. And, been hoping all along that the official visits would open up. Doesn't appear like that's going to be the case. He's also playing football right now. His season starts this weekend. So he's kind of tied up right now, too. And like I said, I don't think he's as wrapped up in this as we are. So I'm not expecting a decision this week, next week, maybe next month. I think we're looking at a decision in May. And he shows up where he shows up in June. He can still make unofficial visits. It's obviously very expensive. You travel from Washington to Ohio to Alabama. You don't get the full visit effect. So I don't even know what it's worth just to walk around and look at trees and grass. I don't know. We'll see what happens. To me, doing this over 20 years, this is all based on comfort and relationships. And I think Ohio State is on really, really good ground there. Hartline kind of started it off, when he started recruiting in Mecca, and he was the guy out there in that state, and Larry Johnson's taken over. Ryan Day has done a great job. When you're going to come a couple thousand miles from home, there would be some familiarity at Ohio State with G. Scott, senior, junior, Mecca. So I think you add all that up. I think Ohio State's the lead dog right now. And if you're looking at the comfort and relationship factor, which I always do, I think Alabama would be behind Ohio State there. They've got a lot of turnover, on their staff. But, you're going against Nick Saban, and, that's not usually where you want to be. So it's interesting. I don't think he's going to Washington. I know Oregon is putting up a fight the best they can. I don't think he's going there either. I think it's Ohio State or Alabama, and I still give Ohio State the edge that I've given them for the past probably 8 or 9 months. And, we're going to see what happens, but I guarantee we're on pins and needles over this decision more than he is.
The joys of being the number one player in the nation. Everyone cares. Everyone cares about where you're going, maybe more than you do, for at least when you're going to make that decision. That was one of the other things you had in your bank blog, was kind of an update into Tuimoloau. But I mean, this was a very wide-ranging topic, as you talked a little bit about last season, a little bit about recruiting, also a little bit about Michigan and an addition they made to their quarterback room this week. Alan Bowman, he's a transfer from Texas Tech. He's someone people may remember from a couple of years ago when he was a freshman. He looked really impressive with Cliff Kingsbury when he was still there. They've changed systems obviously since then. He's had some injury issues. Is he someone that Michigan is looking at as a potential starter this year, or is he kind of more of just a depth addition for them?
I have to think he's a depth guy for them. He was basically run out of Texas Tech. They brought in the Oregon transfer, Tyler Slough. Also last year, Bowman was benched for Henry Kalami. Henry's a South Florida kid. I know him, and he's okay, but you get benched for him. That doesn't speak well for your future at that school. So, I think he's a total depth guy at Michigan. I think it gives Bowman a great chance to go to a great school, get his master's education. Should, J.J. McCarthy not be ready to go? Should Cade McNamara not be ready to go? Should either of them become hurt, have problems? The kid steps in. So, but I don't think Alan Bowman was brought in and promised that he would be the starting quarterback this year at Michigan. And if he was, promised that, and if he is their starting quarterback, I don't think it bodes well for them at all. So I don't think he's a starting, winning, championship Power 5 QB at all.
Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting dynamic there, because that's a really interesting decision for Harbaugh. Because I mean, there is the thought, and there's probably some reason behind this thought, that this could be a make or break season for him. If they go 7-5 again, that might be it for him up there, because he took that big cut on his salary this year, and they restructured his contract and all that. If they go 7-5, lose big to Ohio State again, so this could be a make or break season for him. And then you have to manage the quarterback, the dynamics of the younger quarterbacks. And if you start one of these guys, does that chase one of the younger guys off? Or if you start J.J. McCarthy, does that chase Cade McNamara off? I mean, that's going to be a really difficult thing for them to try and balance all of those different pieces of that decision, because there are probably some conflicting factors there where, one thing may suggest start the veteran guy, whereas maybe that's not the best answer long term. And if you're going to get fired after this year, do you care about the long term? I mean, that just has to be a very difficult decision for them if these guys are relatively close, I would think, coming out of fall camp.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be very good this year either, and I could be dead wrong on that. But that turnover in the coaching staff, and they lost a lot of really good players, and they weren't very good last year. And whoever starts at quarterback, which is obviously the most important position in all of team sports, I see negatives in all the quarterbacks, so I can't see them being all that good this year, but, we've been wrong before, and, there is talent up there, but I just think their needle's kind of pointing downwards right now, and, we'll see. They have a tough schedule next year too, so I could see that 7-5 season coming. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, they have Washington out of conference, and then have a pretty difficult conference slate too. So yeah, they get Wisconsin cross division, I think, and I think maybe Iowa too. Yeah, that is a tough schedule for them this fall.
Sure.
In addition to the Bowman news and the Tuimoloau news and the national championship news and news on another 5-star cornerback, you also had a bunch of really interesting stuff in there about an update on a player you called maybe the best tight end prospect you've ever seen, where he might be headed next. We'll let you're gonna have to go to BuckeyeScoop.com and find that bank blog on our Ask the Insiders board to find that one. But that was another really interesting update. Luis Irizarry's name came up there for the second time in 2 days. We're talking Luis Irizarry on the Morning Scoop. What a week for him. You may also have set a world record for the longest Thursday chat ever. It ran a full week a couple weeks ago. Getting ready for another one this Thursday. That is one of my absolute favorite features on the site, just because it's like, it starts and it's like, this could go anywhere. So let people know a little bit about that weekly chat on our Ask the Insiders board.
Yeah, it's really just kind of a simple thing. I just put a call out. If you have any questions or any topics you want to discuss, let's discuss it, and it ends up going in a lot of different directions. We don't allow politics. And I think that was a brilliant decision by Kirk and Mark, but we allow about everything else. And we usually touch on everything else. So it's just a fun thing. And like I say, to me, it's just, I approach it, it's like a group of guys sitting around a table at a bar, watching a game and just talking, only this time it ends up being with, 1,000 guys sitting around a table in a bar, and we do talk, and it's a lot of fun. It's my most favorite part of the week too. I love interacting with our subscribers. They're awesome. And, you get a question every now and then, and it's like, wow, because usually it's rapid fire. They ask, I answer, they ask, I answer. And then sometimes you get a question. I mean, it requires some thought, because you don't want to just shoot from the hip and throw something out that sounds really dumb, which I can really do that really well. So, but it's just so much fun. And I would encourage people, if they've never experienced it or been a part of it, it's probably something you really want to check out.
And when we say that covers a lot of ground, a lot of football in there, a lot of golf in there. But a week or two ago, I read someone asking who would win a fight, a grizzly bear or a gorilla. And there was a lot of very thoughtful answers from a number of different people. You'll get a lot of our staff members hopping in there as well to answer stuff that they may be, qualified to answer and to address as well. So it is a really fun conversation. A lot of good times. And sometimes the Thursday chat goes till the following Wednesday, and just the next Thursday chat starts up right after the next day. So always a good time on the Ask the Insiders board. One of the wonderful perks of being a member of BuckeyeScoop.com. We have had a busy week of nuggets from Nevada Buck. Lots of great insider content from Tony Gerdeman, Mark Givler, and Alex Gleitman, and our whole team. That is all at BuckeyesScoop.com. You can also check out all of our great podcasts. Kirk Barton is apparently having Ted Ginn on Scoop World Order. That is going to be a fun conversation. He put out a call for questions. Don't worry. I was, I think, the third person in the span of about 6 questions to ask what he would have run in the 40 at the NFL Combine. So I am super interested to hear the answer on that. That is one of the great unanswered questions in Ohio State football history. So we will we'll get the answer for that on Scoop World Order with Kirk, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. That should be a really interesting conversation. So you can find that and all of our great podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, all those wonderful places. Just search Buckeye Scoop to find all of those. You can subscribe right there. Also leave us a 5-star rating and review, which will help other folks find those shows as well. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.